So, it is an ominous year. 2012. Its shadow looming over us is almost mythological. And for those of us who attach meaning to our abstract notion of time, there's a concrete calculation determining the end of the world as we know it next month, December 21st, 2012. Or December 22nd or 23rd, depending on which website you visit. Now, while the math may be off here or there, it all has to do with our notion of the end of the world and how that relates to the end of the Mayan calendar. Now, while this is not the first prediction of our imminent doom, nor will it be the last, it certainly has the best PR team in the business. Because I would say that there is a greater cultural awareness and worldwide awareness of this particular end date than has ever been known in human history. But if I'm a betting man, I'm going to go ahead and say that nothing is going to happen on December 21st, 2012. I mean, they've cried wolf way too many times, right? However, before I go to bed on December 20th, I'll probably think about it a little bit. Might devote a little bit of fear and maybe even some anxiety. Now, why would I do that? Why would I waste my time and energy thinking about something that I know has no plausible way of occurring? Yet I do. Now, for me, it doesn't just start on December 20th. For years, I've entertained here or there, what if I were thrust into an apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic scenario? What would I do? So, I began making plans. I began coming up with these imaginary lists of things that I need to stock up on. I even think of arming myself, though I am not a gun person at all. I talk to my friends, I pick their brains, I say, hey, what are you going to do about, the end of the world? Maybe get some ideas, right? I'll even take myself to these sort of daydream situations where I am in a life-threatening scenario and I've got to make a split-second decision. How would I react? Normally around then, I pull myself back out of that dark fear cloud and get back to burning dinner. I laugh at myself. I say, that's ridiculous. Why are you getting so worked up about that? I think it's silly that I will get so full of fear. I think about it a different way, especially as a comedian. I think, okay, let's say this, one scenario. Let's say oil ran out, for example, and our electronic grid melted down. Society as we know it was gone, and we were reduced to a more agrarian and isolated society. My grandchildren, because I am the grandfather of the apocalypse now, let me show you. My grandchildren now have to go out in the field and work the crops and get them all ready for winter. They come in from milking the cows, and they want to show me the latest toys they've fashioned from corn cobs and pine cones. And I say to them, oh, it wasn't like that back in my day. Back in my day, we'd waste whole days playing video games. That's right. And if I could tell you how much time I wasted on the Facebook. And you children, you have to walk to school every day. Why, we didn't walk anywhere. We had moving sidewalks. I mean, there were escalators and cars. Oh, wonderful cars. Why, I would drive around a parking lot 2 or 3 times just to find a spot closer to the store. So anyway, that's another place I can go. I either go into this cloud full of fear, or I travel into a more social commentary area. But I'm not alone in this. I'm not the only person who thinks about the end of the world. And I would argue that we all do. Now, some of you are probably sitting there saying, well, I don't buy that. I don't waste my time thinking about the end of the world. Not me, that's ridiculous. Well, I want to ask a question. Have any of you guys in this room ever heard of a thing called global warming? Anyone? No, it's a TED crowd, yeah, okay. Well, I'm afraid you have spent some time thinking about the end of the world. Now, your nightmare scenario probably is not so dramatic. It doesn't have anything to do with zombies or with a nuclear fallout or with a mythological force come to smite us all. It's more inconvenient truth than less The Walking Dead. You're probably thinking more about rising ocean levels, global famine, and the culmination of the next ice age. Right? Now, I got to be honest with you. It's not as much fun to think about it that way. It's too long term. It's not as dramatic. But we do think about it. So, as my friend pointed out, Alan Wolfe, this is called eschatology. And the fact that we have a name for this is pretty interesting, that we've come up with a name for this type of philosophy and this way of thinking. But where does it come from? Now, we could argue that primitive peoples of the planet probably predicted the end of the world every time there was a severe thunderstorm, or an eclipse, or a giant hurricane, right? Maybe even after their first hangover. While all of those aren't recorded for history, we'll move on to some that were. Now, the first recorded prediction of the end of the world went back to the Romans. Apparently, Romulus, one of the mythological founders of Rome, had been revealed a sacred number, and that number was how long Rome was going to last before it was destroyed. That day came and went, probably some pretty severe Roman hangovers, and the prophet said once again, well, our math was off. It was this different day. So they set another date, and everybody got ready for that. That came and went without event as well. So the Romans decided maybe we shouldn't predict the end of the world anymore, or at least not write it down. Technically. However, there was this little colony down south in the Middle East. I know that sounds weird. This colony of Rome that had enough apocalyptic prediction for everyone. And it all goes back to 0 ACE with the birth of Jesus Christ. Now, Jesus Christ lived upon the earth. It's recorded in the Bible as well as historically. And at the end of his life, he arose into the sky. But before he left, he told the disciples and those assembled, I will return one day to judge the earth. And his return would be preceded and followed by terrible tragedy upon the earth and culminating in the end of the world. But what is often forgot is that he really never said when. He was pretty vague about it. It is not for you to know the times or date the Father has set by his own authority. In one of the Gospels, he said soon. But it was almost like Jesus was a math teacher, right? And he put this complex problem on the board. And prophets have been trying to solve that problem ever since. There have been at least 140 predictions of the end of the world based on Christian theology in the last 2,012 years. Some were mere decades after the death of Jesus, and the latest one was about 6 months ago. Now, my point in saying all of this is not to discredit any kind of religious belief, not at all, but to give a little credit to our Judeo-Christian heritage as a source of this end-of-the-world thinking. But it's not just religion where this lies. Science also gets in the game. Now, that can be a flu pandemic. That can be, some sort of asteroid striking us. That can be a self-created black hole like the one over in Europe that's going to swallow all of us. But science also gets in the game. You could also say that the news media, actually I wanted to call science out on one, and I want you guys to get ready for this. If you call them on it, they have predicted that the sun will die in approximately 5 billion years. You guys ready for that one? Because the Earth's going to burn up too. So science has got the farthest prediction of the end of the world that we know of. The news media also plays into this because Lord knows a good scare story is great for ratings. And in the last 40 years, our entertainment has gone haywire with this theme. I mean, you're talking about movies, television shows, books, comics, all centered around this theme, the end of the world. Now, granted, it's in different ways, but all related to this. And don't kid yourself, there's also money to be made off of this. Right now, in abandoned missile silos where we used to have nuclear missiles, they are building technologically advanced survivor shelters where for a mere $35,000, you can secure a place for your family. Thank you, the Vivos Corporation. Yes, and others. Their positioning statement says it all. Which side of the door do you want to be on? That's good marketing. That's good marketing. So if we've established that we do think about it, the end of the world, that is, why do we do it? Is there a purpose in it? Is it ingrained? Well, I have 6 reasons why I think we do it. Maybe that will illuminate why. Hubris. There's an arrogance in standing in the ruins of a civilization, standing in the ashes, looking back on it fallen, and picking out everything that was wrong with it. It's an easy thing to do, and I think there's also a hubris and arrogance in thinking that if an end-of-the-world scenario happened, we would be one of the ones that survived and we would know what to do. So there's that. There's also the Great Release, and this sort of moves in a different direction. In our modern, technological, super fast-paced world, there's a lot of stress on all of us. Financial stress, debt, daily grind, what seems like empty responsibility. And to see a world where all that is gone and we are at a slower pace with less technology has an appeal to it. Number 3, there is nothing more existential. Where else can you put yourself where you are down to the core of your humanity, where you are just trying to survive and protect yourself and those you love? And that's it. That's your whole life. It's an interesting perspective. It almost puts you in the same way you would think about death. Number 4, the story must end. We are hardwired almost to see our lives, to see our culture, to see the world we know as a story. There is a beginning, there is a rising action, and there must be an end. It's almost like an innate craving for a dramatic finish. I'm going to do this. Thank you, the 2 of you. Number 5, the world is broken, right? And this comes from several different perspectives. It can be the environmental, it can be the religious, or it can be the survivalist. See, it basically goes like this. The world is going in the wrong direction, we are doing the wrong things, and the only way to improve it is to destroy it. Now, that can be a permanent end in the case of religious theology. It can be a temporary reboot when you emerge from your Vivo shelter to rebuild a broken world. Or, in the case of the environmentalists, it's a little different, but the things we are doing now are harming the world, and if we continue to do them, we will destroy the earth. Now, number 6, and I think this ties into all of them. We've established that we do this, granted in different ways. So, if we do it, let's use it. As I've said, you can take yourself to this core of humanity, and you can look around and you can see what's really important to you. It's easy to find those things and make them priorities. Make those changes. Now, this can be small changes. This can be just personal life, ways you want to deal with other people. Maybe it'll help you call your mom more. Maybe it'll help your relationship with your significant other, your children. In a bigger scale, maybe you look at things that need changed in the world and how you can help with that. Maybe you can make decisions that help the environment. Maybe you can make decisions about what you consume. Maybe you can use this knowledge, this place of darkness and fear, to clean out your garage. Lord knows it'll help you prioritize. But my point is, let's not be afraid to do that. Let's think about the end of the world. Because when you're stripped down to that bare bones existence, there's only a few things that are very important, and it's easy to work back up from there and prioritize them. So I urge you all, think about the end of the world. Nothing to be afraid of, right? And if I'm wrong about all this, it's not the end of the world. Thank you.